G'day guys and welcome to Primal Waters. Today we're going to be diving into some rogue shark theory talk and talk about some incidents or fatal incidents that took place here in South Australia between I guess the mid 80s to probably up to 2000s. Now in the past there's been lots of talk about rogue sharks, but I think these days a lot of researchers and people like that debunk the rogue shark theory. I tend to think there are some sharks out there who are rogue sharks, and when I talk about rogue, I mean I'll talk about that personally target humans. But you know, if this was the case, you would see a lot more incidents through summer. My theory on the rogue shark thing is that these sharks that do it are old sharks, big sharks, and when they get to a certain age, depending on their health, they probably find it really hard to catch their normal prey, sea lions, seals, and stuff like that. So I guess they're that hungry. And if they see something that is an easy meal, they will probably go for it. So that's my feeling on it. Now I'm going to have a look at an article that goes back all the way back to 1989. The headline from this would have been from the Advertiser: "Monster may have returned." It talks about a incident that took place in 1985 and also in 1987. Now, I'm only going to mention the first name basis of these people because I don't really feel comfortable talking about incidents that have actually taken place in my state. But in 1985, a female swimmer, first name Shirley, was taken. What people say was a 6-metre great white north of Port Lincoln. And then 1987, a abalone diver was taken by what people presume was a fairly large great white shark. That diver's name was Terry. He wasn't found. The only things that were found were his dive belt, goggles, which had damage on. I think his air set was found as well, and which had damage from shark bites, which they forensically tested and did all their technology stuff and determined it was from a great white shark. There's also been other incidents that have taken place throughout South Australia, but with all these other incidents, I think there may be another 10 from 1987 without looking at it. There's probably one or two incidents which could tie into the rogue shark theory. But I'm just going to give you a quick read from this article. Like I said, it dates back to 1989, and it's a story about a person by the name of Vic Hislop. Now, if you're not familiar with him, he isn't anymore, but his job was to go out and catch sharks. And his main focus was on the great white shark up until they became a protected species. Now, a lot of people hate Vic Hislop. He copped a lot of flack. That's because of him going out and hunting great white sharks. But his theory was that the governments in Australia were actually hiding the fact that there was a lot more people who went missing on the beaches, were a cover-up by the governments, something like you would see in the movie Jaws. His theory was that there were a lot of people who disappeared or out in the ocean were victims of shark incidents. He believed that there was a lot more attacks that have taken place, and due to the local governments and councils and that held those. They put them down as drownings, disappearances, just because to save tourism money, because in Australia tourism is our number one money maker for this country, especially during summer. And like the movie Jaws, if you yell barracuda, everyone goes huh, but if you yell shark, then you've got a panic on your hands. So his theory was that the governments and councils were actually hiding the fact that some of these disappearances were caused by sharks. But I'll quickly read into this. Shark hunter Vic Hislop claims a huge white pointer terrorising boaties near Port Lincoln could be the monster that mauled Shirley 4 years ago, which was in 1985. Mr. Hislop told yesterday of how a giant 6-metre shark had circled, rolled out of the water, and repeatedly rammed 2 small fishing boats off a small island inhabited by seals. People in the boats were terrified at the Jaws-like encounter, fearing they would be capsized. Several vowed to stay off the water until the shark was caught. Mr. Hislop said he recently travelled from Queensland home to Port Lincoln to hunt the shark at the request of locals. So as I said, this article's from 89. Great white sharks came protected species in Australia, I think, 96, 97. So, but had no sooner set his lines than Fisheries Department boat arrived. Officers confiscated Mr. Hislop's equipment, which was deemed to be illegal. This was confirmed by the Fisheries Department Director, Mr. Rob Lewis, who said he had received no advice about a shark problem at Port Lincoln. Now, the story goes that around Port Lincoln, there was this one. They get a lot of great whites around Port Lincoln, but there was one really big great white that would come back every 2 or 3 years, and when it did, this shark was quite aggressive against boaties and that, and would ram people and that. And a lot of people started to think, was this the shark that was responsible for Shirley's incident in 1985? So Mr. Hislop is not a commercial. Mr. Hislop is not a commercially licensed fisherman in South Australia, and his equipment is not permitted for recreational fishing, Mr. Lewis said. He added that Mr. Hislop may be prosecuted. Mr. Hislop said the huge shark had returned to where Shirley had been, I won't say that word, at Peak Bay near Tumby Bay, north of Port Lincoln. She was in half by a 6-metre white pointer as her 4 small daughters watched in horror from the shoreline, which would have been really terrible to see that. She was just, I can't remember how far she was out, but she was just snorkeling. And the 33-year-old Port Lincoln mum had been snorkeling with her husband. A single flipper was the sole trace found after the incident. Mr. Hislop said yesterday he had been contacted by the owner of the property where the incident happened. The huge shark was causing a problem circling the boat. A shark that has attacked a human returns to the same spot at the same time year after year, said Mr. Hislop, a shark hunter for 25 years. On arriving in Port Lincoln to hunt the shark, Mr. Hislop received hospital treatment after a hook lodged in his leg. The nursing sister said a huge 6-metre white pointer had harassed a boat off a nearby island. It had circled the boat, rolled and rammed. He said Mr. Hislop said sharks were coming closer to shore to eat dolphins and seals because of the dwindling tuna stocks. Mr. Hislop also had a brush with fisheries departments in the late 87 when hunting for the shark that took diver Terry off Marina Rock. So this is another one which was 2 years after Shirley's. So that happened in is it St. Vincent Gulf? The Shirley one's Spencer Golf. Different golf, not that far away from each other. It just has to go all the way down past York Peninsula and all the way back up to that golf. This is my feeling, that these two incidents are from the same shark. He said 9 fishery officers in 2 boats cut his lines. A shark that has taken a human will stay in the area. That's why they must be hunted for. Oh no, I can't read that. Kick up, stink. You see, said sharks are killing machines. Once a shark has taken a man, the barrier is broken. Humans are no longer foreign to a shark, and he won't hesitate to do it again. So, so this is my feeling with that. So we see a lot of shark incidents that have taken place, particularly in South Australia. Most incidents, the person either survives or passes away, and that's due to the shock of the blood loss. Then you have incidents where there's no remains or the person is not found, and we see in videos and talk about sharks, great whites. They investigate by biting. That's how they figure out if it's food or not. And a lot of the time, these sharks, when an incident takes place, might take a bite of someone, realise that it's not their main food that they eat, release and swim off. Sometimes that person either survives or they don't. Then you have the really big sharks, the really, really big ones. And they're the ones where sometimes there's no recovery, no one's found, they've disappeared. They're the rogue sharks. They're the small percentage of great whites that I think are probably at a stage in their life where they're finding it hard to find their normal meals. And when a opportunity comes up, unfortunately, incidents like this happen. So now, the Monster May Have Returned article, like I said, was back in 1989, and we've had at least another 10 incidents taken place all the way on. I don't think the last one here in South Australia is, I think, back in 2015 or 2012. But there's been a few cases where the person hasn't been found. And there was one off of the York Peninsula, I think in the early 2000s, where a person was out sailboarding and he didn't return. They sent out a search party, and all they found left was the board with damage from a shark. But before I end this video, I want to reassure. Like, I know we're not their main food source. I know that. I know most of the time the incidents that have taken place, and if you've noticed me saying incidents instead of the other word, is that that's the way they want to talk about incidents that take place like this. So most of the times, young juvenile great whites, sub-adult great whites might mistakenly think that we're their main food source, and when they do bite, they realise that we're not. And sometimes, unfortunately, you may survive or you may not. But then when you get your really big great whites, and when I'm saying big, I'm talking you 5.5 metres to even up to 7 metres. They're the ones you watch out for. And now I also know we've got that Ocean Ramsey. She swam with Deep Blue. Deep Blue's over 6 metres in length. But you got to remember, great whites work on stealth, surprising their prey, and if you're swimming around like that, the shark's not going to attack you, because they work on stealth and surprise. So and plus you got to have a look at that the shark as well. Is that they were filming her just after she was feeding off a whale. So Deep Blue was probably pretty full at the time. So, but let me know in the comment section down below, guys. That's why we do these videos. We talk about it. The rogue shark theory, which is probably come from the movie of Jaws. I love Jaws as a film. I know a lot of people talk about the Jaws film thinking that it gave a bad reputation to sharks. Jaws didn't do that for me. Jaws got me interested in sharks, especially great white sharks. And I think these days people are fully aware that we're not their main food source for sharks. But if you just unfortunately, if you meet the wrong one, and if you're in the water at the wrong time, yeah, the situation changes. So, alright, guys, that's it for this video today. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are. Let's just discuss this, guys. What's your thoughts on the rogue shark theory? Do you think there are rogue sharks out there? Do you agree with my thought on rogue sharks, that these are probably old sharks that have been around for a while, and they're finding it hard to actually to catch their main food source? So just to survive, they you know, if an opportunity comes up for food, and if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you have to admit, when it comes to the ocean, we're pretty useless in the water, and a easy target for a big hungry shark. Alright, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you for tuning in. Drop a comment down below, hit that like button, share this video, and if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Make sure you check out my other shark videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.